Anurag and Tony talked about server and a router, so I'm just going to flip that around and talk about a router and a server, which is essentially the cloud services router, the CSR, right? So if we just peel back the layers and look at CSR, what exactly is the CSR? So a lot of you guys are actually familiar with the ASR series where we run the iOS XE code. So what we've essentially done is virtualize the iOS XE code. So what that means is some of the custom ASICs that we had on the ASRs, we pretty much removed them. And essentially then what you have is a router that runs on x86 hardware, 4 GB RAM, 8 GB hard drive, and up to 4 cores or 4 vCPUs. So that's essentially what we've done, and that's how you want to think about this as I go through the presentation, right? So the other thing to remember about this is it's optimized for single tenant use cases. So the way we envision this is it's going to be sitting in the service provider cloud data center, and you'll be able to spin up a CSR easily, right? So all the benefits of virtualization right there, and it'll be on a single tenant basis, meaning for every customer that this cloud service provider is addressing, you'll be able to spin up a CSR and offer all these iOS features that people have come to expect from us very easily, right? And the third point I'd like to make is it's going to be agnostic, hypervisor agnostic, though in the first release we're actually going to be supporting VMware ESXi 5.0, but in later releases we will be bringing in support for Citrix Xen and some of the other hypervisors as well, such as Microsoft Hyper-V. And finally, virtual switch agnostic and server agnostic, obviously, right? So rather than getting into all the virtualization details, which Anurag and some of the other guys have talked about, once you get past the fact that it's a virtualized router, you really want to look at what are the use cases behind this, because that's what makes it unique, right? So I just want to talk about some of the use cases. I want to go through these real quick. So where exactly is the CSR going to sit? Now, if you look at this picture or topology here, where we envision the CSR sitting is in the cloud provider data center, right? And like I said, it's going to be a single tenant router, and that's one of the reasons why we've limited the throughput to around 50 Mbps, at least in the first release. So for every tenant that you see here, tenant A, tenant B, we expect to be front-ending that tenant with the CSR1000v, right? So you have people coming in across the MPLS core or across the public internet, hitting the cloud provider's data center, accessing all these virtual machines that are sitting in the virtual infrastructure, and this is going to be front-ended by the CSR, right? So this is what you want to remember. I'm going to go through the next 3 slides with the use cases in more detail. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I want to distinguish this from a hardware-based router. You are familiar with our branch routing portfolio and the ASRs as well that are used for aggregation. But the CSR actually has a niche role, though it shares the same code base, right? So some of the key things to remember: flexible, we talked about that. Automated, so rapid deployment, just due to the fact that it's a virtual machine. But we're also going to be offering a REST API, which makes it, yeah, go ahead.
So can you demo that?
We do not have the time today, but we can definitely set up something.
Okay.
Yeah, for a demo.
And then are you going to be contributing, like Cisco Developer Network kind of really locked up? Are you going to be putting out sample code to the community?
Absolutely, yeah. So the product is not out yet. So November is when we have a controlled availability release, which means that we are working closely with some beta customers, and based on the use cases, we're going to make CSR available to them. But in March of next year, March 2013 is when it's going to be GA, or general availability. So you'll see all these things ramp up as we move towards GA.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. And finally, elasticity, right? This is a big one. So I like to think of it as vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. So either be able to dynamically add more capacity to that particular VM or that particular Ultra instance. So for example, in the next release, we are going to be offering 3 different throughput capacities for Ultra, 10, 25, and 50. But we'll also have the capability to be able to dynamically move from 10 to 25, 25 to 50, and so on, right?
By the way, it's not Ultra CSR.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, CSR. I'm just, yeah. And then vertical scaling as well, which means that you'll be able to add the virtual machine, spin up new instances of Ultra, all the benefits of virtual. CSR, sorry. Just too much in my engineering.
So question, are you guys going to be able to, some of the limitations of software-based routing, there's been people who have been in this market for a while and haven't penetrated.
Yeah.
Obviously they weren't Cisco, so I guess they didn't have an upper hand. But doing encryption. You have different VPN technologies out there. Would we be able to leverage some of the chipsets in either the compute platform that running off to help offload that?
We already do. I'll answer that question.
Sure.
Since I was working on CSR2. We already do. So Intel has AES&I instruction sets, which does software handling of encryption and decryption in crypto. So we leverage those instruction sets by themselves. So any commodity server which comes up with additional instruction sets, we actually heavily use those because we don't have custom ASICs in these commodity servers.
Yeah.
What was the technology again?
AES&I. That's the instruction set that
So moving on to the use cases for the CSR. So there are 4 primary use cases for the CSR, right? So the first one is secure VPN gateway, and I'm sure all of you guys understand this well enough. But the point I'd like to make is, a lot of times when you're going from the branch to the data center, you are backhauling all the traffic to the aggregation layer, right? And then from there you go to the data center. But by virtue of the fact that CSR supports all these encryption Flex VPN, IPsec VPN, and so on, you're able to go directly and securely from the branch to your data center and offer those services to our customers. So we're actually working with a couple of service providers who have this exact use case in mind, right? Cloud service providers. So moving on to the next use case for the CSR. This one is actually a big one and probably one of our primary use cases. So this is MPLS gateway. So what does this mean? If you look at a cloud provider's data center today, you have an ASR9K right at the top, right? It's the edge. He's terminating everything. From there on, you have a complete L2, right? So as you go across the access, distribution switches and everything, it's L2. Now, because of this, and because of the fact that VLAN is a 12-bit ID, you're limited to 4096 VLANs, right? So service providers, so this severely limits the capability of our service providers to offer, to increase their scale and support more customers. So one way that our customers are looking at or envisioning CSR is to position it as a single tenant router, right? And run L3, basically do an eBGP session, right? Yeah, go ahead.
Question, are you actually popping the tag down in the CSR?
No, the tags will be popped in the PE router, which will still be the ASR9K. This will just be a CSR, and and you'll just run a VRF. So you're basically turning it into an L3.
So you're not doing tag switching in the CSR on this northbound interface?
No. We could, though, because we have full PE functionality as well. So you could do tag switching, LDP, TDP. Okay. But that's, I would say it's a smaller use case, and we're not kind of encouraging it. We're still working with our customers. But using it as a CE and using just a VRF from your northbound to the southbound is where we see the maximum bang for the buck. Because now what it does is every CSR can support 4096 VLANs, and essentially you're able to scale up to a large number of customers.
So two additional questions on that. One, there's a lot of discussions about how we handle VLANs and the virtualization there.
Absolutely, yeah.
And a lot of discussions of, hey, when we're going to support tunnel endpoints on Cisco stuff.
Yeah.
Will you guys operate as a VTEP for VXLAN?
Absolutely. So that's on the roadmap. So beginning the 3.10 release, which is essentially July 2013, is when we expect to support VXLAN functionality. So behaving as a VTEP and a VXLAN gateway as well for the VLAN to VXLAN.
Cool. And even past that, so you guys aren't popping tags on the CSR right now,
correct,
but supporting things like,
we do support it, but we don't envision that as a use cases.
Oh, so it's supported but not...
Absolutely, yeah.
So what about E over MPLS pseudowires, VPLS, and
sure,
maybe even possibly OTV on this?
Yeah, so OTV is definitely on the roadmap. Yeah.
Even Ethernet over MPLS
is on the roadmap.
Ethernet over MPLS over GRE.
Yeah.
Is on the roadmap. VPLS...
Where's available on... I heard available on the roadmap.
3.9.
3.9, yeah. VPLS, we've had one customer actually ask for it, so we're kind of thinking about it and probably put it on the roadmap. We don't know for sure yet.
I think this E over MPLS pseudowire sounds...
Yes.
Yeah.
So the power of the CSR is that it builds on it's leveraging the same iOS XE code as an ASR.
Right.
Yeah.
So that means that if there is a use case for a customer, all the features actually are there. It's just a matter of us saying, well, it makes sense, enabling and testing it based on that use case.
Yeah.
So people who are very creative come with new use cases to us. Yes, it's very easy to enable those features because it's the same platform from a software point of view.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of look at it like, not to get into the 7K discussion here, OTV you know, as it's used. But, you know, really there's multiple different LAN extension technologies out there, and the ability to have flexibility in the hardware or software platform implementing them.
Yeah,
Real
well,
sexy.
you see, that's the view in here is that the CSR enables an enterprise customers to extend their network into the cloud, whatever the underlying architecture is, right? And of course, you can have a cloud provider who has a fabric, and they can decide to use that CSR to create additional managed functionality. As well.
I'll ask a very odd, might be awkward question. Was all these LAN extension technologies in your committed, or were you committed to that before the Nicira acquisition from VMware?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
it's probably part
The,
of your
the
code
project
that you
started
can
sometime in June last year.
Okay.
This product.
But
project.
the reason for that is that customers are asking those things. So
Yeah.
that's very obvious. The market wants us to enable those features, and that's how we follow that.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Lisp is going to be supported in our control availability release 3.8, and OTV is coming in 3.9. So, yeah.
So you're so you're terminating your VMs. You're providing your multi-tenancy.
Yeah, we can forward all the text.
So a single tenant CSR in a multi-tenant.
4K. Are you doing GRE keys in there also?
You mean like from an IPsec?
From VM to hypervisor. So Quantum, for example, right? So you got two mechanisms today. You've got VLAN ID for multi-tenancy of GRE. So I assume this is part of that whole solution, right?
Yeah, but we sit above that, right? So we sit in front of the virtual infrastructure, right? So we don't. So the Nexus 1000v is probably where you would see that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been told that we're running out of time, but I think you guys get the idea, right? So the power of CSR, where it works. And this is just some of the other use cases. We already talked about some of the L2 extensions. So data center to cloud IP mobility. This is where the L2.
Sorry,
you kind of preempted us, but this is exactly what it is. And like I've listed the solutions, Lisp for VM mobility, dynamic routing, EO or MPLS. We talked about OTV coming as well, right? And finally, traffic control and management. So this is another one, just by virtue of the fact that it is a services gateway, right, at the end of the day. We can support technologies such as AppNav, and I know the next session they're going to talk about AppNav, but we become a control point, right? So we are able to redirect traffic. So if you have virtual VARs instances in your cloud data center, which is definitely happening, CSR can sit in front, dynamically redirect all this traffic to all these different VVARs instances handling different applications, right? So that's the other big use case. So I'm just going to jump. So this slide actually captures some of the management. Just a couple of points I'd like to make here is we are going to be supporting REST API, right? So RESTful API, because in an automated environment, that's what you want. Support for vCloud Director. We are going to integrate with the Cisco VNMC as well. So from a management perspective, we believe we have a pretty solid story. So all this is coming. And finally, I just want to, because I know you guys are going to be interested in this, I just want to show you the roadmap, right? So like I said, today in 3.8 and 3.9 release, we only support ESXi as the hypervisor. And later releases, we are going to be supporting Zen, right? So that's July 2013 is the 3.10. Oops. 3.10 release, right? So November 2012 is the control availability release. So we're working with some of our customers. We're going to make it available to only them. And licensing, it's going to be 1, 3, and 5-year term-based licenses. We're going to put a cap of 50 Mbps in the 3.8 release. So the reason is, CSR serves a very specific use case, and we want to keep it at that, right? In theory, we could, open the pipes wide open and allow it to run 1 gig, but we don't want to do that. We envision this as a single tenant router. So, yeah, you'll probably understand why we're going there, but
no, explain that.
So yeah, I mean, so that's the picture there for the roadmap. In GA, that's March 2013, is QoS, multicast, OTV, vCloud Director support, the RESTful APIs, both from a licensing perspective as well as configuration perspective. And also, we are going to offer the 10, 25, and 50 Mbps. So depending on your use case, you'll be able to choose 3 different form factors, and also dynamically add to that. So if you've chosen a 10 Mbps, you have like an online retailer, Christmas season, he wants to get that bursty traffic handle, you'll be able to dynamically move it up.
So Bopaiah, let's move on, guys.
That's it. That's the last slide, guys.
So
all right.
we are very open and honest here, but I would. I would not like to see this on the World Wide Web, our roadmap. So
it already is. They're
it already.
It.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's too late.
Too late. All right. FYI, so we are so open.
Yeah.
Is this the microphone?
I don't know. Thanks, guys.